In this Warmaster battle report, myself and Steve try out a siege game using the rules from the Warmaster compendium. The attacking force will be around 2,000 points worth of Vampire Counts, whilst the defending force will be the Empire. The siege rules can be found on page 87 of the compendium and explain how to pick attacking forces and their siege equipment, and also how to pay for the castle for the defenders. In our game, the points values of both sides will be equal, however the defender will have to spend the majority of their points on their defences. The scenario we are playing is called Into the Breach on page 103 of the compendium. In this scenario, the game is played lengthways down a rectangular board with the defender setting up static in and around their castle at one end. The attacker then sets up their army more than 40 centimetres from the castle, and they will win the scenario if they can get inside the castle and exit the board from the defender's table edge. For this game we'll be using Steve's fully painted Warmaster scale fortress. The game will last for at least 7 turns, with a possibility to run to 10 turns. The vampire player will win if they can move any non-flying unit along the road inside the fortress and off the board. Meanwhile, the Empire army will win if they can break the enemy army or kill the general. This battle will take place in the Empire province of Ostermark, near to the Sylvanian border. The Vampire Count is invading Ostermark to bring more lands under his deathly grip. His invasion route heads north through the Erie Downs, where he encounters the border fortress protecting the town of Fichetal. We set up our scenery with Fichetal Fortress guarding the road at one end of the board, whilst the vampire's invasion route through the Erie Downs is at the other end. We then add some hills, some fields and some impassable buildings, and the battlefield is complete. So first let's take a look at the brave Empire defenders. In a siege game, the defender has to pick their force with the minimums for a 1,000 point army, but the maximums of a 2,000 point army. This means we must take 2 units of crossbowmen and 2 units of halberdiers, and 1 general. We add skirmisher stands to both the halberdier units. We also add 2 units of flagellants, 2 units of cannon, 2 units of hellblasters and a wizard. Although comparatively small in number, this army will fight to the death and cannot be broken. It also packs a lot of firepower. We then purchase our siege fortifications, and in this scenario we only have to pay for the ones that are at the front of the castle. There are 4 towers, which cost 200 points each. There are 7 wall sections, which we equip with boiling oil, for a total of 60 points each, and 1 gate costing 40 points. The Empire force deploys entirely within the castle, with the artillery manning the towers, and the crossbowmen manning the walls. The melee infantry and the general deploy in the courtyard, ready to rush to the defence of any walls that get breached by the undead. We now look at the Vampire Count's army. Steve has brought his standard 2,000 point Vampire Counts tournament list, which is not specifically geared up to fight a siege, as it features quite a lot of cavalry. There are 4 skeletons, 4 zombies, 2 ghouls, 2 graveguard, 2 ethereal host, 4 black knights, 4 direwolves and 2 fellbats. It's led by a vampire lord. There are 2 vampires on terror-causing mounts and 2 necromancers with magic items. As the invading army emerges from the Erie Downs, they realise they will have to hastily construct some siege equipment in order to breach the fortress and invade the rest of Ostermark. For this game, the undead force has constructed 2 battering rams and enough siege ladders to equip every infantry unit with them. The rams cost 10 points each and the ladders 5 points each, which adds 90 points to the army total, bringing it equal to the Empire force. The Empire troops can only watch in horror as the undead horde gathers outside their walls, and those villagers too slow to escape are slaughtered and added to the ranks of zombies. The vampires' plan is a simple one. Send the expendable infantry forwards to draw the enemy fire, whilst outflanking with the heavier infantry, who will scale the walls and kill the defenders. Meanwhile, the battering rams will bring down the gate, allowing the cavalry entrance to the fortress. The vampire bats will take out the enemy cannon as soon as possible. So, with both armies now fully deployed, the vampires take the first turn. The vampire commanding this undead force is of Bretonnian origin. In life he was Duc U'lah of the Artois region. In undeath he settled in northern Sylvania, but retained his original Bretonnian title. Therefore, somewhat confusingly, he is now known as Count Duc U'lah. The vampire's plan of attack begins with a bold left flank sweep by the fell bats, bringing them into the flank arc of the cannon in the tower. Moving up in support on the left are 2 units of ethereal hosts, which represent a real threat of assault to the defenders. The mass of zombie and skeleton infantry now begins to lumber forwards in line, dragging their siege equipment with them as they go. The expendable infantry protects the more valuable battering rams behind them, whilst the cavalry wait in reserve, well out of cannon range. Unfortunately, the order to move the fell bats around the right flank of the castle fails, so in the magic phase a necromancer casts Van Hel's Dance Macabre, and the bats sweep around to threaten that flank of the fortress as well.
They're giant vampire bats!
Another necromancer attempts to move up an errant unit of zombies with another Van Hel's Dance Macabre, but that spell fails. The vampire's first turn is now over, and it's time for the Empire to respond. The Empire General sees the vampire bats threatening his left-hand tower, and sees the vampire bats threatening his right-hand tower. With no enemy infantry units close to assaulting the walls, the Empire can focus on shooting. In a siege, any unit positioned in a tower has a 360-degree line of sight, so the cannon can draw line of sight to the fell bats. On the left flank, they fire 4 shots and hit once. And on the right flank, the cannons repeat this process and hit twice. We record the damage to both units of bats, but neither sustain enough hits to remove a whole stand. The right flank crossbowmen then shoot at the nearest unit of zombies, causing 1 hit, and the left flank crossbowmen open up on skeletons, causing 2 hits. The Hellblasters then add their volleys to the fray, with the left-hand one scoring 2 hits on a unit of zombies. With no undead units losing a stand this turn, we then roll for drive-backs, and the undead infantry line gets pushed back piecemeal. The Vampire General decides to launch a probing attack in his second turn. Firstly, a unit of fellbats home back towards a character to receive orders on the army's right flank. Meanwhile, on the army's left flank, a unit of fellbats is ordered to charge the cannon in the tower. The cannons stand and shoot, inflicting 1 hit. The ethereal hosts on the left flank are then ordered further forward, and they now have an excellent opportunity to begin assaulting the walls next turn. The zombies also resume their assault on the castle centre left. They lumber forwards with 1 unit charging into the defending crossbowmen atop the wall. The crossbowmen deploy their boiling oil on the assaulting zombies as they storm up the siege ladder. 2 pots miss their mark, but the third lands slap bang in the middle of the units, inflicting 2 hits. As 1 Hellblaster is positioned in a tower adjacent to the crossbowmen being assaulted atop the wall, it is also permitted to stand and shoot, and can use all 8 shots as the zombies are within 10 centimeters. The Hellblaster goes into overdrive, inflicting 6 more hits on the zombies, which is sufficient to remove 2 whole stands. Now at this point we make a mistake with the siege rules. If an assaulting unit loses 1 or more stands when it tries to assault the walls, then the assault automatically fails. We did not read this rule correctly, and in the combat phase we allowed the assault to continue, which meant 1 stand of zombies fought 3 stands of crossbowmen. Unsurprisingly, the zombies were then wiped out in combat by the fortified crossbowmen. Elsewhere, in the battle for the tower, the bats managed to inflict a single hit on the fortified cannon, and the cannon failed to do any damage to the bats, so score 1 hit for their stand and shoot. The combat ends in a draw and both sides remain locked in combat. In any siege assault, you only ever fight 1 round of combat, and if that ends in a draw, then both sides remain locked in combat, which will continue next turn. In turn 2, the Empire General sees the undead threatening his right flank, and orders the flagellants to defend the castle wall.
Enemy sighted!
With this being the only order this turn, the Empire Wizard now moves to a right flank tower and successfully casts Weird Enchantment upon the nearest unit of Ethereal Host. This spell will prevent them from causing terror and reduce them to half-paced move next turn. The Vampire is quick to dispel this using a scroll. The right-hand crossbows then shoot at the nearest unit of zombies, causing 1 hit. The Hellblaster in the tower next to them joins in and also scores 1 hit. The Hellblaster on the left-hand tower opens up at a unit of skeletons, inflicting 3 hits on them. Meanwhile, the left-hand crossbows score 3 hits on another unit of skeletons.
Open fire!
The unengaged cannon on the left-hand tower also target the same unit of skeletons, scoring 2 more hits. With a successful round of shooting completed, 2 skeleton units have lost a stand, and the undead infantry is once more driven back. In the combat phase, the Fellbats assaulting the tower score 2 hits on the cannon, and the cannon only score 1 hit on the bats. This means the bats win the combat and the cannon are destroyed. The bats then fall back in good order, nearer to a character to receive orders next turn. Vampire turn 3 begins with an assault upon the walls by the ethereal hosts. Ethereal hosts are particularly dangerous in a siege assault as they ignore the defender's fortified status, meaning they'll hit the flagellants on 4s rather than 6s. At the front of the castle, another unit of zombies is ordered to assault the crossbowmen. In a castle assault, each 40mm section of the wall counts as a separate target, and the attackers are under no obligation to maximise frontage against the enemy manning these walls, as they would be if the enemy were in the open. This turn the zombies wisely decide to assault only 2 wall sections manned by crossbowmen, leaving the third one empty. This third one is the one adjacent to the tower containing the Hellblaster, which caused so much damage with stand and shoot attacks last turn. So by doing this, the zombies avoid the mistake of the first unit. On the Vampire's right flank, an order to charge the Fellbats into the remaining cannon in the tower fails. Count Duc U'lah then experiences an existential crisis of his own and fails to order the remaining infantry forwards along the road. A vampire on a winged nightmare then joins the ethereal host unit assaulting the walls on the right hand side of the castle. In the shooting phase, the undead wizards attempt to raise the dead behind the flagellants, but this spell fails. In combat, the ethereal hosts plus mounted character inflict 7 hits on the flagellants. However, the flagellants also fight back hard, inflicting 6 hits on the undead. During a castle assault, neither side may rely upon support, so it's only the number of casualties inflicted that counts. Therefore, the flagellants have lost this combat by 1 and must surrender the walls to the Vampire Counts. The flagellants retreat into the courtyard, and the ethereal host now take the walls. However, the flying character may not end his move upon the walls, so has to join another friendly unit within 30 centimetres. At the front of the castle, the boiling oil attacks from the crossbowmen standing and shooting, plus their combat attacks, only succeed in inflicting 3 hits upon the attacking zombies. As the zombies have not lost a stand, they attack the crossbowmen on the walls, inflicting a single hit. However, the zombies have lost the combat on casualties alone and must fall back. At the start of Empire Turn 3, the crazed flagellants must use their initiative to charge the ethereal host atop the castle walls. The ethereal hosts will now count as defended against the flagellants. The general then orders the remaining infantry in the courtyard, including a charge by 1 unit of halberdiers and their skirmishers, into the ethereal hosts atop the walls, fighting the flagellants. The remaining infantry retain a brigade formation in the centre of the courtyard, ready to repel any more attackers that pile over the walls. As the undead pressure on the right side of the fortress intensifies, can the Empire counterattack and save the day? In the shooting phase, the wizard successfully casts Weird Enchantment upon the terrifying ethereal host, removing their terror that would affect the halberdiers. The crossbowmen and 2 Hellblasters then open up on the unit of zombies that assaulted the walls last turn, reducing them to a fine red mist. Meanwhile, on the left tower, the cannon failed to cause any damage to the Fellbats. On the right hand side, the charging Imperial units inflict 3 hits on the defended ethereal hosts. In return, the ethereal hosts only managed 2 hits against the charging Empire troops. This means the Empire units win the combat by a single point and push the ethereal hosts back off the ramparts to their doom. In a siege, any attacking unit which is forced to retreat off a castle wall that it has previously captured is automatically destroyed. The victorious Empire units then retake the castle wall, placing 3 stands to repulse the undead again next turn. So by the end of their third turn, the Empire are in a strong position, having repulsed the initial vampire attacks upon their castle. Vampire turn 4 begins with a unit of Fellbats charging the cannon in the left-hand tower. The cannons stand and shoot, inflicting 2 hits on the bats. However, on the right side of the castle, the ethereal host failed to receive the order that would send them back into the assault. Meanwhile, a second unit of Fellbats is successfully ordered to fly into the courtyard and threaten the rear of the Empire troops. Another unit of zombies is successfully ordered to continue the assault against the crossbowmen, and following their predecessor's example, they only assault 2 sections of the castle wall, leaving the Hellblaster unable to add its stand and shoot attacks to the combat. The general then issues an order to the skeleton columns pushing the battering rams down the road. The lumbering machines begin their slow advance towards the castle gates. The battering rams are the best chance the undead have of breaching the gate and allowing their cavalry units access to the castle. The vampire on a winged nightmare then joins the Fellbats assaulting the cannon in the left tower, whilst the vampire mounted on a black coach repositions to the opposite side of the castle to take over command of troops there. Count Duc U'lah smiles menacingly as his battering rams near the gate. And in the shooting phase, all the undead wizards attempt to raise dead within the castle walls to assist the assaults, but all spells fail. In combat, the boiling oil stand and shoot attacks from the crossbowmen fighting the zombies inflict 4 hits. And unfortunately, our failure to read the rules correctly means that the zombies continue their assault despite losing a stand. This means that the zombies lose another stand in combat against the crossbowmen. The remaining zombie stand is then forced to retreat whilst the crossbowmen have suffered no losses. The Fellbats and flying character assaulting the cannon in the tower can only succeed in causing 1 hit on the enemy this turn. This means the bats have lost the combat by 1 point and must retreat. In turn 4, the Empire General sees the threat posed by the Fellbats and orders the remaining infantry to about face, with the Flagellants facing the enemy. With a successful second order, the Flagellants then charge into the Fellbats, with the second Halberdier unit forming up in column behind the gate. The Empire Wizard moves into the right-hand tower and attempts to cast Weird Enchantment upon the remaining ethereal host, but the spell fails. The cannon then shoot point blank at the menacing bats, scoring 3 hits and killing a stand. Meanwhile, the right flank crossbowmen must target the zombies and only score 1 hit. Both Hellblasters are free to target the nearest battering ram, and in a hail of high caliber lead shot, the contraption is brought crashing down. In combat, the Flagellants find the Fellbats to be too agile an opponent and can only bring down a single stand, whilst losing a stand of their own in return. In Vampire turn 5, the Fellbats are once more ordered to continue their assault against the cannon, sustaining a single stand and shoot hit as they charge home. The ethereal host is successfully ordered to assault the Imperial defenders on the wall, although the chariot-mounted vampire will be unable to join them in combat for obvious reasons. The reserve infantry begins to move forwards in anticipation of a quick assault, whilst the general successfully orders 1 unit of skeletons to assault the walls, and the second unit of skeletons pushing the remaining battering ram to assault the gate. And following the example of the zombies, the skeletons wisely choose to assault only the 2 stands of crossbowmen furthest from the Hellblaster. As the battering ram has now reached the gate, it counts as being in combat and will automatically inflict 1 hit on the gate in the shooting phase. Sensing an opportunity this turn, the ghouls are ordered forward by the general, but they fail to reach the castle walls. Meanwhile, a damaged unit of skeletons outside the castle walls fails to receive its order this turn. The vampire on winged nightmare once more joins the Fellbats assaulting the cannon, And in the shooting phase, a necromancer successfully casts Raise the Dead into the combat on the walls between the flagellants and the ethereal host. A unit of skeletons joins the combat to the rear of the Empire troops fighting on the wall.
Give up your life and lay down with the dead. I have you surrounded.
In combat, the skeleton assault upon the crossbows fails as they sustain 5 hits from stand and shoot attacks due to boiling oil. This time we correct our previous mistakes and do not fight the assault in the combat phase. In the towers overlooking the gatehouse, the Hellblasters are permitted to stand and shoot against the battering ram. The combined fire of both war machines reduces the battering ram to splinters. In the combat phase, the assault upon the cannon in the tower goes more the undead's way, and they win combat by a single point, removing the cannon as a threat. Having destroyed the artillery, the victorious Fellbats then fall back in good order along the castle wall. In the desperate struggle on the walls, the Empire troops fight enemies both to their front and their rear.
They come from all sides. Back to back we must fight these restless dead.
Despite their advantage in numbers, the undead only inflict 4 hits on the Empire defenders, whilst the Imperial troops inflict 8 hits on the undead. The assault is repulsed and both sides have lost 1 stand. The undead retreat whilst the Empire troops about face to give them line of sight to the skeletons. So this turn saw a mostly successful defence by the Empire against the Vampires' assault, although they have lost all their cannon. Meanwhile, the undead numbers are growing with the addition of Raised Dead. In Empire turn 5, the Imperial troops on the wall use their initiative to charge into the skeletons that were raised against them last turn. The Flagellants have to charge the Fellbats that are right in front of them, whilst the remaining Empire troops hold position. In shooting, the Hellblasters once more earn their keep, inflicting 9 hits on the column of skeletons that were manning the battering ram, whilst the crossbowmen on the right-hand wall drive back a single stand of zombies. In combat, the Flagellants atone for their previous lack of zeal and successfully kill off all the Fellbats. Meanwhile, the Raised Dead are cut down in short order by the victorious Empire troops, who only sustain minor damage themselves. The Empire then remount the walls by falling back in good order. In turn 6, the Vampires stick to the plan and send 1 unit of zombies to assault the gatehouse itself. The Hellblasters prepare to stand and shoot, but disaster strikes in the left-hand gate tower, with the Hellblaster self-destructing, whilst the Hellblaster in the right-hand tower suffers a malfunction and does not shoot at all. Therefore the zombies erect their siege ladder and can capture the gatehouse uncontested. The diminished ethereal hosts are ordered to assault the walls 1 more time to keep the defenders tied down. And on the other side of the castle, the diminished skeletons do the same. The ghouls are ordered to move onto the undead left flank and continue the assault in support of the ethereal troops, while the Graveguard march forward towards the crossbowmen on the walls. The Vampire Lord attempts to order up his cavalry reserve towards the gatehouse in anticipation of the zombies capturing it, but he suffers another identity crisis and fails his order. However, the Vampire's plan is still working, with 3 simultaneous assaults on the walls this turn. The Vampire on Winged Nightmare once more joins the ethereal hosts assaulting the Empire defenders on the walls. And in the shooting phase, more Raised Dead are added to the combat against the desperate Empire defenders. The Fellbats meanwhile are moved with a Van Hels's Dance Macabre spell to stay hidden behind the tower. In combat, the zombies successfully assault the gatehouse, capturing it and the adjacent tower. The undead now have control of the gate itself and can open this to move their cavalry units inside the castle. Meanwhile, the skeletons assaulting the fortified crossbowmen are repulsed by boiling oil attacks and lose a stand. On the right-hand wall, the undead assault once more stumbles as the valiant Empire defenders are able to see off their terrifying opponents. And as the undead units are forced to retreat, the victorious Empire units once more about face to keep the skeletons in line of sight. In their turn 6, the victorious Empire infantry leap down from the walls to attack the retreating skeletons. The halberdiers protecting the gatehouse charge into combat against the zombies, whilst the remaining flagellants move up to add their weight into the combat against the skeletons, but fail the order to charge. In shooting, the combined fire of the Hellblaster and crossbows inflicts 3 hits on the Graveguard, whilst the second unit of crossbows scores 2 hits against skeletons, driving them back. In combat, the Raised Dead fight hard against the Empire troops, killing off a stand of halberdiers. Ultimately, however, in the second round of combat, the Empire are victorious and wipe out the skeletons. They then fall back in good order to retake the battlements. And in the gatehouse, the valiant Empire halberdiers overcome the zombies, driving them back over the battlements to their death. The gatehouse is now once more in Imperial control. In turn 7, the vampires are fast running out of time and running out of troops, but they can still win if they can get 1 unit over the walls and off the board. To this end, the ghouls use their initiative to charge the defenders on the wall. The Fellbats then home back towards a vampire, whilst surviving skeleton stands are ordered to assault the walls once more. This time the stand and shoot attacks from boiling oil fail to stop them. Unfortunately, the orders to send the Graveguard in over the walls against the crossbowmen fail. The undead wizards continue to summon more reinforcements within the castle walls, with a unit of Raised Dead appearing behind the beleaguered crossbowmen. In the ensuing combat, both sides sustain 3 hits, so the combat remains locked in place as a draw, and will be concluded next turn. The vampire on Winged Nightmare joins the ghouls assaulting the Empire troops on the right wall of the castle, but the combat goes disastrously for the undead, and the ghouls fail to take off any Empire stands whilst losing 2 of their own. The Empire have held off the Vampire Count Assault for 7 turns, but can they last another? At the start of turn 7, the Empire halberdiers guarding the gatehouse use their initiative to charge into the flank of the Raised Dead, fighting the crossbowmen on the walls. Sensing a renewed undead assault upon the right side of the castle, the Empire General orders the surviving flagellants to mount the walls in their defence. In shooting, the surviving Hellblaster and crossbows on the right-hand wall shred another stand of Graveguard. In combat, the charging halberdiers save the beleaguered crossbowmen from certain doom. The assaulting skeletons outside the castle are driven back from the walls, whilst the Raised Dead inside the castle are cut down over 2 rounds of combat by the skirmisher stand and accompanying halberdiers. The halberdiers then fall back in good order to retake the gatehouse. At the end of turn 7, we roll a dice to see if the battle continues, and on the roll of 4+, it does. In Vampire turn 8, a fresh unit of ghouls renews the assault upon the castle walls, whilst the General orders the fresh unit of Graveguard to begin a long march around the left flank of the army to take the right-hand wall, which is guarded only by 2 stands of flagellants. However, before the plan is completed, the order fails. In shooting, the undead wizards once again summon Raised Dead to finish the job by assaulting the right-hand wall, and the mounted vampire once more enters the fray. In the ensuing combat, the flagellants are wiped out and the skirmishers take a single hit. But the flagellants go down swinging and take out a stand of ghouls as they do, with the combat ending in a draw. However, with numbers on their side, it appears the undead's plan to capture this wall will finally succeed. With no movement to speak of, turn 8 sees the Empire units focus on their shooting. The crossbows and Hellblaster once more pour fire into the Graveguard, wiping out the last stand. In combat, the valiant skirmishers are finally brought down by the weight of number of Raised Dead and ghouls, although they go down swinging and take a stand of ghouls with them. The victorious stand of ghouls finally take the battlements on the right-hand side of the fortress. The vampires can now win next turn if they can move any undead unit inside the courtyard and off the road leading to the village of Fichetal. With both sides having now played a full 8 turns, we once more roll 4+ to see if the battle continues. However, fortune finally abandons the vampire player and the game ends. The vampires cannot claim victory as they failed to move a unit off the board inside the castle, whilst the Empire can't claim victory as they failed to break the vampire army or kill the general. Therefore, both sides will calculate their victory points to see who is crowned the winner. The Empire lost 2 units of cannon, 1 unit of Hellblaster, 1 unit of Flagellants and 1 unit of Halberdiers with skirmishers, for a total of 360 victory points for the vampires. Meanwhile, the Undead lost 1 unit of Fellbats, 3.5 units of zombies carrying ladders, 2 and 2.5 units of skeletons carrying ladders, 1.5 units of ethereal host carrying ladders, and 2 half units of ghouls carrying ladders, plus the 2 battering rams. We only add the points for ladders to units that have been completely destroyed, which gives the Empire a total of 525 victory points. So on this occasion, Fichetal is saved and the undead forces have been repulsed. Although the undead army lacked the heavy siege equipment necessary to bring the walls down, they still had sufficient numbers and some canny tricks upon their side which could have secured them victory. But for now, Count Duc U'lah's army retreats back into the Erie Downs, and next time we'll be sure to bring some trebuchets.
Duc U'llah.
If you're looking for some fun, you can always count upon the wild one they call
Duc U'llah.
Count Duc U'llah.